Hello guys, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I will tell you guys how I went 3-0 at my local pre-release with both luck and skill on my side. And pre-releases are typically all just about luck. What of the three promos are you going to grab? What kind of cards are you going to get out of your packs? It ultimately comes down to basically whatever you pull, and then there's a little bit of skill involved in building your deck. Personally, I really wanted the Typhlosion and Quilava package, as I saw that as the most consistent package, with Quilava guaranteeing you Ethan's Adventure, which would guarantee you Pokemon and energy. And as I already knew beforehand, this pre-release had a pretty lacking consistency engine, so I really wanted those cards. Of course, I did not want Mimikyu at all because its attack was useless. Yes, it was a free retreater, but I felt like if I got that poor Mimikyu, I would be off to a very rough start. And while I didn't get Mimikyu, which is good, I also didn't get Typhlosion. Instead, I got Misty's Gyarados, which I guess is an alright attacker. It would be a cheeky fun to do a ton of damage slamming as many Misty's Pokemon into my pre-release deck as possible, but also the idea of milling my own deck when it's only a 40 card deck just didn't seem like a good idea, especially when there was a lack of recovery. However, I did not just get Misty's Gyarados, I also got Ethan's Typhlosion, so at least half of my pack was good, and the Typhlosion Gyarados pair was quite interesting to see. But let us wait and see what my packs would contain and whether or not they would change the direction my pre-release would go. One of my first packs, I got an extra Quilava and an early extra Gyarados. Both really good cards to see, which just made my pre-release kit a little bit stronger. I also got a couple of Ethan's Sudowoodo, which I set aside because I could easily see myself ditching the Misty's cards entirely and focusing entirely on an Ethan's package using Sudowoodo to potentially copy some of my opponent's cheeky attacks. And then I got my first hit, the Full Art Team Rocket's Persian, which isn't bad. And in the same pack, I got a regular Team Rocket's Meowth, meaning I could instantly slap that boy into my deck if I wanted. And since it is a colorless attacker, it's very easy to slot into my deck, and it has two pretty decent attacks. The first attack costs 2 colorless energy and reveals the top 10 cards of my opponent's deck, and I get to choose one of the Pokemon revealed and use its attack for that attack. And the second attack is 3 colorless, and I get to do 140 damage and leave my opponent confused. And the 140 for 3 energy is very good in a pre-release, so I immediately knew I was going to be considering putting this card into my deck. Colorless attacks are really good after all in pre-release, since you're usually running multi-energy decks to begin with, and not having to worry about getting a specific energy type to attack with is really good. And then immediately in the next pack, I pulled a Team Rocket's Mewtwo, and I was very sad at this point that I did not get any Team Rocket package at all in my pre-release kit. Imagine if I got Team Rocket and Typhlosion in my pre-release kit, I would be cooking right now. However, I've also pulled about 2 Team Rocket Giovanni, which is Gust, in a pre-release format, which is not guaranteed. And Guzma Gust is really good. It's one of my favorite Gust effects ever, except I have to switch between 2 Team Rocket's Pokemon for the Gust effect to take place, so that is definitely something I'm going to consider when I build my deck. Because of the Gust and because of the Mewtwo and the Persian I pulled, I almost entirely ditched my pre-release kit and went an entire Team Rockets package, but I knew that wasn't gonna be wise. I'd be losing a lot of consistency I would get from the Ethan's Typhlosion package, so I decided to throw it back in, especially because the Ethan's Adventure doesn't just guarantee Ethan's Pokemon, but also guarantees energy, so at worst comes to worst, I can just get 3 energy to make sure I can get manual attachments every turn. And the Team Rocket bulk that I got in my pre-release were actually pretty good too. I got a Team Rocket's Chingling, which gave me a free retreater that I could Team Rocket Giovanni into, and it would give me a free retreater into the Typhlosion to attack if I wanted. So the deck ended up being very flexible. And though I was considering both the Team Rocket Sneasel and Team Rocket's Mewtwo for a bit there, I decided to cut both. Mainly because the Sneasel, I didn't see myself leaving anything alive on the bench that I would need to snipe off, and the Team Rocket Mewtwo just felt very awkward to power up when I was lacking the Team Rocket energy, so I left those two out and decided to focus fully on the Persian and Ethan's package because I felt those would be a lot more flexible with my game plan. And for the Typhlosion line, I went 3-3-2 using the extra Ethan's Quilava I pulled to help bolster out the line. And energy, you have to go a little bit more heavy on energy in pre-release events, so I went 6 fire to have guaranteed energy to pull with Ethan's Adventure to power up not only my Typhlosion, but potentially my other Pokemon as well, and 3 dark to power up my Team Rocket Smirkrow I have in the deck, which has a Torment attack for a dark and colorless, as well as a colorless attack which just puts a supporter into my hand, and 3 Psychic Energy in my deck to power up the Team Rocket's Wobbuffet I put into the deck. I put that Wobbuffet into the deck for potentially healing off a ton of damage for my Persian, but that timeline never came into effect. I only had 2 Ethan's Adventure. I would have loved to pull more, but having 2 just allowed me to have enough consistency, so it worked out pretty well. And we had lots of build time, so by the time I finished my deck, I had time for a couple of test games. The first game, I got absolutely swept by my opponent's Team Rocket's Wheezing, which just powered through my deck since I didn't really hit any draw, and the second game ended up being almost a complete sweep in my favor. However, before we finished, it was time for game 1 to start. Game 1 was a kind of a weird game. My opponent kept on misplaying with all the Team Rocket supporter because he was playing a Misty, Starmie, and a Team Rocket deck, and he kept on trying to use Team Rocket activated cards when he had Misties. It got very complicated very fast, and I got my Persian up early, and my opponent couldn't really deal with it, so a win for me! And now we're on to game 2, which I nearly lost. My opponent got up a really fast T-Tar through a really clever play. He was able to evolve into his Pupitar, and then hit my active Meowth for weakness with Explosive Evolution, and upon evolving, he KO'd my Meowth with the T-Tar's ability, which puts 2 damage counters on all the opponent's basic Pokemon between turns, which unfortunately for me, I also had my 30 HP Chingling on the bench, so my opponent got 2 really fast prize cards off, and while I was able to get a Quilava up and get Ethan's Adventure out, I was really praying that I'd be able to find a way out of the situation. And while I was nearly swept by my opponent, I was able to, off of a top deck research, find my Team Rocket's Persian, which I evolved my sneakily placed bench Meowth, attach a second energy to, and use its first attack to reveal the top 10 cards of my opponent's deck and copy an attack of one of the Pokemon I found there. And luckily I was able to hit his T-Tar, which has an attack to do 180 damage and take out his threat on the board, and my opponent quickly ran out of stable board state and I swept him with the Kitty Cat. And game 3 was against my test partner, who is also running the same pre-release kit with the Wheezing and T-Tar package. And I was able to get up my Chonky Persian once again, and using the Ethan Adventure Quilava support, I'm able to power it up, use a Hustle attack to hit a T-Tar once again to do 180 damage and take a key KO. I was able to sweep my opponent off the board. I mean, of course, there's a small asterisk there. My opponent...
Small asterisk? I was going to sweep you off the board. I went first, had the Petrol, whatever, the one dude who gets me 3 Rockets Pokemon. I had my Wheezing turn 2. I was going to like start doing 120 a turn, but I missed my Rockets energy 4 turns in a row.
And I was able to get a Team Rocket Persian without any pressure on my board, which let me sweep for an easy victory. And that's basically the summary of my pre-release. Pre-releases are a ton of fun in my opinion, but it really entirely depends on your luck for how good your deck is going to be. Depends on what pre-release package you pull, as well as what you pull out of your packs.
Nice.
And I feel like I played pretty well and got very lucky. I was able to attack with Typhlosion even though I hardly mentioned it. The Typhlosion and Cool Lava package really added a boost of consistency my deck would otherwise lack. And that's it for this week's video. If you like this video, be sure to share it with a friend and give it a like, and I'll see you guys all in next week's video. Bye!